Good day everyone, this is Leah Joy Ipinili, a third-year education student of North Dumaguete Main Campus 1. Now in this video, I am going to talk about my chosen topic for our Ed 305, which is Summative Assessment 1, Planning and Implementing Classroom Tests under Chapter 1. So what is summative assessments? Summative assessments, as written here in the slide, are used primarily to document student performance, to monitor and record student proficiency, to give students grades, to report to parents for selection into special programs, for conferring of honors, for establishing a record of performance, for accountability as evidence of students' learning, to evaluate teachers, for college admissions and employers. So what is a summative assessment? Summative assessment is an assessment administered at the end of the instructional unit in a course. These assessments are intended to evaluate the student learning by comparing performance to a standard or benchmark. They are often high stakes, meaning they have a high point value. Summative assessments are given to students at the end of an instructional period. Now, examples of summative assessments include chapter tests, unit tests, semester tests, common tests, final papers, reports, and presentations. Next slide, it says here, sometimes summative assessments are used formatively and formative assessments are used summatively. Summative assessments may be used to plan instruction. Seat work, usually a formative assessment, could be thought of as mini summative assessments. The primary difference between summative and formative assessment is in the use of the evidence. The primary purpose of summative assessment is to establish a score or grade to represent what the students know and what they can do. There is another definition for summative assessment. It is that summative assessment is any method of evaluation performed at the end of a unit that allows a teacher to measure a student's understanding, typically against standardized criteria. Now, the purpose of summative assessment is to gauge students' comprehension of the material presented at the end of a particular unit of work, and is often measured with a grade or percentage depending on the subject. In contrast, the informal nature of formative assessments, summative assessments require clear expectations and timelines to be set to give students the best opportunity to succeed. The teachers will use rubrics or assessment criteria to ensure that the students understand what to expect in any such test. The results of summative assessments are usually significant, used to determine whether a student passes a unit or even a class. Now, examples of summative assessment may include written assessment. Students will be tasked with writing an original piece, such as a narrative or analytic essay. It is an example of a summative assessment. Another example is if it's a performance assessment. With this type, the students will be required to do an activity or task that will showcase their abilities. The standardized assessment, for summative assessment example, the students will take an exam created for a given curriculum and will be measured against existing rubric shared with students throughout a course. In oral assessment, students will craft and deliver an oral piece such as a speech or a presentation. Now, teachers can also utilize this summative assessment in the field of social work and apply it to students in their classroom. It illustrates how social workers can utilize summative assessments to determine if an intervention was successful for a client, or the same concept can be applied to determining if a teacher's instructional method is successful for the students. That would be the end of my discussion. Thank you for listening and have a great day ahead.